If humans don't need art anymore, why are we still doing it? Hi, I'm Amy, and I have no business talking about philosophy, but I am here to talk about it with you. I think right now we are in a time in our lives where we need a little more intellectualism because there is a lot going on in the world that is hard to discuss and tolerate and find words for. I'm feeling strongly that my community may be found on the internet. So let's talk about art philosophy. I had a beloved professor, and he used to say that in his time, this all started with a glass of beer, meaning that good conversation starts with friends. Let's pretend that we're at a pub together and have a conversation on why humans make art. If you asked anybody today why they think that humans make art, they would probably say, well, it's because we need to express ourselves. We just have this innate feeling. But I don't really think that's just it. I honestly don't think that people in prehistoric times understood the idea of self identity enough to want to express that. It's easy to look back with a modern lens and think, this is probably why they did it. But I think in a lot of cases, we're wrong. I think that's why a lot of art gets misinterpreted because when we look at something, we can only see with our own eyes. And so to understand the importance of art is to know the time period. So I'm not going to try to guess at what prehistoric man was thinking when they put their hand upon a wall, but I can tell you that I am sure that even though the media is not the same, that is still what we're doing. Well, before that, there was verbal communication. Knowing that someone out there painted some antelope or painted some lion to warn you from dying, we were cognizant enough that we understood that there might be others like us and they might appreciate the heads up. Seems kind of silly to say it that way, but it probably is that simple. Having icons is incredibly helpful. We know this even in today's society. If you go to a country that you don't speak the language, you can probably still find your way around the airport because of the symbols of a plane, or the bathroom symbol is pretty much the same in every country. We use symbolism to help us with directions, and that is as old as we can possibly go back. So let's start with the survivor argument. People created art to warn people of dangers. People created art to tell them that there was game to be found, to make sure that they could be fed. Could have been anything. To chalk art up to only utilitarian need as it started out, I think would be a fallacy. Art wasn't just utilitarian, it was also ornamental. And there's a couple of reasons for that. We know that archaeologists have found decorated knives and other weapons. More importantly, we know that they found rudimentary jewelry like shell necklaces, bracelets, adorned clothing. Making this assumption based on clothing, of all things. If we think about Scottish clans and them having individual tartans to signify a specific family, from a really young age, children in parts of Peru learn how to weave these complicated patterns. They start with cords and belts are just memorized, but each pattern is unique to each area, and those are passed down and they signify where you came from, and not just your family name, but like where on the mountain did you live, and where did your father's family come from, and where did your mother hail from. Textiles can carry an extreme amount of information, and the way that people identified whether that person might be safe because they're from their own family, or that person might not be safe because they don't recognize the textiles, that's incredibly powerful. And we can see that all throughout history. If you look at the way armor is made, the different hairstyles that we have, the fact that we can sit here in modern day and look at a vase, whether that vase came from ancient Greece or from China, and the specific time period and which dynasty in China it came from. There's also marks that we put on our skin. We tattoo ourselves in symbolism that only means something to us, but sometimes it is a greater discussion of culture and family. And tattoos in themselves are a way to signal to other people. Tattoos have been used in many different ways over eons to say, hey, I belong to this group. And it's also to like beautify the body. Body modification has been around for centuries, millennia. We've been doing that forever because how do you make your body different and beautiful? And what does it signal to other people? There's family crests and emblems and flags. They're all visual ways of saying, this is who we are. We want you to know, and we want us to not be forgotten. It's pretty incredible because it's not just me and it's probably not just you. It's a lot of the world that can look at a pattern and know where it came from. And those patterns have existed for as long as we have existed. That's a pretty powerful thing. My first topic ever in art history, the Venus of Willendorf. So, if you're not familiar with what the Venus of Willendorf is, it was a prehistoric sculpture that was found, I think, around Austria. And when they carbon dated it, it was somewhere between 25 and 30,000 years old. We presume it's something to do with ceremonial fertility, fertility charm, something like that. They also had the ability to paint it. It was made of a limestone that doesn't exist anywhere near Austria. They sourced the materials from a place that wouldn't have been very easy to obtain, or it traveled for a really long time. And it was small, it fit in the palm of your hand. It's a faceless woman. There's also a theory that her figure may have been based on a pregnant woman who was already carving it because of the perspective, and you're pregnant and the way that your body looked would have been the closest representation that they had to that. But of course, none of that we can prove. We can just prove that someone carved it and someone brought it around with them. So these necklaces and these engraved tools and these fertility statues, or so we think, can't easily be explained away as utilitarian. Just because we need something doesn't mean that we need it to be pretty. Very uniquely human feeling. There's repeated religious imagery that we can see as the religions changed across the world, and not just the beautiful stained glass that are in churches, but the Arabesque writing and carvings at the Alhambra, for example. um, we decorated things to exalt them because they were precious to us, and we treated them more preciously in some cases than family. There's lots of traditions across the world that would provide food offerings to religious sites. And can you imagine one of the only things that you have of wealth was also the way that you sustain yourself, and you still left a part of what would feed you at the altar in praise? Leaving an orange is just as valuable to someone as a gold goblet, depending on how much you had. We know that communication is important because it's something that's resonated with us through eons. That we don't make it simply because we need to express ourselves, because that's a modern feeling. And we know that we don't just make it for utilitarian reasons. And what is it? It's more community and belonging and feeling like you're a part of. And that meaning that we look for is not just meaning in life, it's meaning within ourselves, meaning within our families, meaning within a tribe of people. So let's make that our new hypothesis. From music to patterned clothing to fragrances and makeup, food, everything is kind of art. And if it's not, we don't value it as much. Think about your favorite bowl or cup. It generally is not a mass produced item. It could be, and that's fine. But there's usually something about it that you connect with, and it might be the pattern, it might be the weight, it might be the way that it's shaped. But someone out there thought about that design and that resonated with you. At the end of the day, I just want people to acknowledge that their life would be a lot shittier At the end of the day, I would love people to acknowledge just how different the world would be without art and artists. So today, while we might not paint in caves anymore, we're still leaving messages for people everywhere through our music, our writing, our painting, our drawing. And it might be something that you're sitting with right now and you're thinking, Amy, I just do this because I like it. Or I just do this because I don't want to be stressed out and this brings me joy. Or it could even be like, this is my job. This is why I draw this. And all of those are valid. I'd like to think that on some level, it's you trying to reach out with just a little bit of yourself to other people. And innately, in a very human and personal way, I think that it's because we don't want to be forgotten. We want to leave things behind. And if we're going to leave something behind, then let it be beautiful. Let it be valued. Let it be passed down to your children and your children's children and your children's children or their children's children. But in a modern context, even for people that don't think that they're creative or don't aspire to be an artist in any level, they still customize their phones and backgrounds. They still like pictures of themselves and their family and hang up portraits. They still monogram their towels and still make quilts and knit and crochet for the younger generations and pass those down. They wear band t shirts. Even if you don't do any of those, do you decorate your house and make things more appealing with throws and cushions and art on the wall, even if you bought it from Walmart? Is it belonging? Is it mementos? Is it just because we're bored and we need something to do? Because that seems very shallow. So, survival, utilitarianism, beauty, expressing ourselves, belonging, communication. All of those could be the answer. I would say that they probably live amongst the trees. We're putting our hands on the wall, metaphorically, to connect with people and to communicate with people. And the best art for each person is art that has some sort of emotional context. And it's usually that connection with the artist. So, my closing thoughts for you: maybe we don't make art because we're artists at heart. Maybe being human is what it means to make art. So we may not paint on caves anymore. Medium has changed, but the impulse to surround yourself with beautiful things that remind you of your family or specific time periods or your emotions has not. So if you have a minute today, just look around you at all of the things that aren't utilitarian in your life, all of the things that maybe you walk by every day, but at some point you were really excited to buy that or receive that or create it because it's something ancient in us that we still don't have a concrete answer for. We can only think through our own lens at what that might actually be. And I know for a fact that everything that I own that is beautiful, most of it is not needed. Most of its only purpose is for me to look at it and it be beautiful. And maybe that will be another conversation about art and beauty and if it has to be that way. So I'll leave it to you now. If this has resonated with you in any way, I would love your feedback. But what I hope is that if anybody sees this, that they'll have something to take away to think about. That's what good conversation does. Time evaporates while you're with that person, but it stays with you for the rest of your life because you're thinking about what kind of impact this has.